Hello and welcome. We will continue from the previous session. We were discussing about lean startup. We concluded discussing the charge early issue, which is a very key component of lean startup. Charge early is one of them, then having a minimum viable prototype, and then getting your idea validated through minimum viable prototype is the validated learning. So, these are key components of lean startup. So, charge early is somewhat counterintuitive in today's e-commerce world. Otherwise, if you are selling a hardware, perhaps you definitely charge at the beginning itself. But charge early also means that when you are building your first prototype, which is a very simple and with minimal but key features, even at that point of time you can expect people to pay, and if they are actually paying for it, that is a wonderful validation. And charging early actually keeps your cash flow healthy. So, you do not run out of cash too early if you are continuously making cash inflows. Now, as I said, minimum viable prototype is one of the key components of lean startup philosophy. This is not just the simplest possible product or smallest imaginable product. It is a simple product, but it has the key features around which your value proposition has been made, because you want your customer to understand your key features, so that they can make an informed decision. They can give their feedback on the key features, not really on something that is not the core to the product. It can be a simple video, it can be a concierge model, it can be something like a split test, like 2 websites. We will be talking about that moving forward. Early prototypes can be many, means it can be anything depending on the kind of business that you are in. There cannot be a formula like one size fits all. It is not like that. It may even be a story. You can just tell a story, and people like Drew Houston of Dropbox, he actually made up a story, showed it in YouTube. We will come to that. Make sure that user can get adequate insight, meaning that the features should be such that they have a holistic view, at least a holistic view about your value proposition. Otherwise, they will perhaps reject the idea. Suppose the key features are not there, they will say, what is this? It does not solve my problem. So, their feedback also will not be meaningful. So, they should be able to provide meaningful response. And the earlier you can do the testing, the faster and the earlier you can do the testing, the better it is, because you get feedback with minimum investment, minimum time. So, if the feedback is negative, then you do not have to pursue further. You will be able to pivot quickly. But if you get that same feedback, that negative feedback after, say, after investment of a lot of money, time, then all these are lost. You have to eventually pivot. Whereas, if the feedback is positive, then you persevere, meaning that you continue with adding more features and then more rounds of validation through this process. So, you need to understand the user story for this purpose, because first thing is you should empathize with the customer or the user for which you are developing the product, and empathizing necessitates that you put yourself in the shoes of the customer, meaning you become something like you become the customer and feel the pain. So, how can you do that without really becoming a customer? Is that you must define a customer or user persona. Persona means it is almost like an ideal customer who has all the pains that you try to alleviate, number one. Number two, you understand their psychology, their behavior, their aspirations, so that you can build all of them in your product. Not all of them, but you try to build maximum of them into your product. The early adopters kind of people are actually more suitable for validating your early prototype. Usually early adopters suffer from the pain that you are trying to alleviate. More importantly, they don't bother about aesthetic look or anything. They are forgiving. They may or may not have the money. That is not important, because even if the money, whether they have the money, that can be decided only when you have the product and you have the pricing or cost structure and then pricing done. So, one should not really bother about whether they have the money at this point of time. But then moving forward, as you have the product and you have clarity about the kind of cost that you are going to incur and the price that is going to be there, then you should be talking to customers who are capable or who can afford your product. Otherwise, it is going to be wastage of time and resources. Particularly if you find someone who has already built some kind of a jugaad arrangement, meaning that he really have the pain and he has tried to alleviate the pain by himself. So, he will be looking forward to a solution more than anybody else, and because he is okay with the jugaad arrangement, so he will be okay with your early prototype. So, go ahead and move. The whole process of lean startup or this validation process and developing product can be imagined or visualized in the form of this build, measure, lean cycle, which is the bedrock of lean startup. So, it starts with building a minimum key feature product, so that customer can comprehend the usefulness of the product and they can give meaningful feedback. And then you analyze their feedback, their ease of their romance with the product, level of their satisfaction, their experience. So, you gather data on them, process the data, analyze the data and get valuable insight, and then refine your idea and then build again, which is more elaborately can be depicted this way, that you have the idea based on which you build a product, then you measure customer response or their satisfaction level, that generates the data, learn from the data and then ideate all over again. This whole thing is nothing but validated learning, meaning you build, you measure the customer response, then you learn, meaning you get your hypothesis validated, then rebuild or pivot. So, you need to onboard the customer on your journey by making some representation of the idea in drawing, video or whatever that is a topic. The objective is to convey sufficient information to the customer for them to make a judgment of your value proposition, and they should be able to compare competing solution and come to a conclusion that your product is superior or inferior, whatever, and they will be able to give you the feedback. It tests your hypothesis about customers, assessment of your value proposition. I have a separate slide on hypothesis, so let us move forward fast. Validated learning, same thing, you get to know which features they like your product may have 5 features. Now, suppose you are giving it to the customer, he or she uses 3 of them. You show them that look, there are other 2 features. He says okay, I am not concerned about them. So, you understand that those are not essential for them. But at the same time, it says I am looking for this, but this cannot operate that. So, you get a new information and you understand that that feature is to be added to this product for it to be made suitable for the customer. You also receive some idea as to what percentage of the target customers are likely to be early adopters or early majority, meaning that you give it to say 10 customer, 5 people say that yes, I am in. So, you get that okay, 50% of the people will be my early adopters, because they are already convinced about the value proposition, about the efficacy of my product to alleviate their pain. You also get connected with some people and they are most likely to be your customer. Not only your customer, they are likely to be evangelist for you, meaning they are likely to carry this message across and they will convert some individuals who are not your customer into customer, meaning they will convince them to become your customer. At the very least, they would volunteer to be your early adopters, and you get the channel already set. Here is an example. This can actually be understood through examples, and I have plenty of them. Nick Swinmurn had a hypothesis that people will buy shoes online. He pitched this idea before friends, before investors, before many people. People said, no, you must be crazy to think that way. Nobody is going to buy shoe online, because they want to put their leg inside and then test, walk a few steps, only then they would like to decide. But Nick thought, this is not right. People actually will buy, because I give them so much of convenience to buy shoes online, and they have choices. They can walk into 5 shops, but I am going to give them choices of maybe 100 shops, maybe thousands of models, and they can make a quick judgment without really stepping out of their comfort zone. So he thought, no, people will buy. So he made a kind of a concierge prototype, which is nothing but photographs of shoes, and he showed it to many people. They said that, look, these are the shoes, do you want to buy? People said, yes, but I don't want to buy online, I want to go to shop and buy. Then he said, you have to visit so many shops to really identify this shoe. Alternately, you just choose, I am going to send it to your home, don't pay. You choose, either you select or you reject. My person will come and take it back. You do not have to worry about anything. There is no risk or uncertainty involved. You just sit there, see the shoe, test it at your home, and then say, I don't like, somebody will take it away. Or maybe I will send you number of pairs. So, you choose one of them. You pay only when you are satisfied. Before that, you do not have to pay. People said, yes, why not? And then a company was born. So, he gradually, step by step built infrastructure, meaning a portal. He did not even maintain inventory. He maintained inventory much after. So, eventually, it was sold for $1.2 billion to Amazon. So, all that product that he had at the beginning is some photographs. That is the minimum viable product, and that process of getting validation is build, measure, learn process of validation, customer validation. Groupon is another example. Andrew Mason started a startup for collective action, meaning that suppose there is a problem somewhere, he wants to solve that problem with group of people. So, he will invite people to come and accomplish a certain goal, but then he did not find a lot of people. He started in 2007, it failed in 2008. Then he pivoted with another idea, and that idea was discount coupon. Intuitively, it may not make a lot of sense, but then now it is already established business. So, he started with a minimum viable prototype. What is that? He contracted just one shop, the Motel Bar. It is just by the side of his office. He has contacted them. He said, I will bring customer. You announce some kind of discount. Then with that discount, I will bring hordes of customer, and then you will have a lot of sales, and eventually you will make profit. So, they agreed, and it was a successful experience. So, he realized that this works. So, gradually he enlarged, and he set up his own website, and then invited people with respect to very specific advertisement, very specific offer by a specific brand or shops. Eventually, it became a wonderful business. In 2017, the turnover was $2.84 billion. Now, I do not have the 2018 data, but it is a huge company, very successful. Now, let us do an exercise by ourselves, meaning let us start a company and see how to build a minimum viable prototype and how to go to market. So, you put yourselves in the shoes of the entrepreneur. Suppose you just decided, okay, let me become an entrepreneur. How to do that? So, you are scouting for ideas. Then you thought, okay, let me think about farmers, because they are the people, they produce our food, but they are mostly at the bottom of the pyramid. So, let us see what their pains are. So, you did some reading and you got reliable data that farmers are dying because of spraying pesticide manually. So, they inhale the pesticide and they have fatal diseases. So, you become concerned that this is a huge problem of our society, and we must avert this system, we must alleviate this pain of the farmers. How to do that? You also have data that means in order to find out a solution. So, you go through you do some analysis as to how this is this problem all across the world, or is there a solution in the developed world that is already there, but it is not here. So, you can bring them here. You found that developed countries uses only 25% of the whole pesticides produced in the world, whereas 99% of the deaths happening here. This is humongous. So, you thought this is outrageous and I must find a solution. So, you got a pain point and you are convinced that this is you are passionate that I must find a solution to this and I must provide this solution to the farmer, money, no money. So, you have started gathering information as to how this is done in Western world, developed world, and you find that they are using small aeroplane, manned vehicle for spreading, because they have huge land holding, maybe thousands of hectares of land in one plot. So, you realize that this is not the solution in our country, where land holding is in terms of acres, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 10, something like that. So, this is not going to work in India. So, that is the starting point of your thought, that how to find an alternative solution. You are a kind of a amateur drone operator, meaning as a hobby you actually run drone and you are fascinated about that. So, you try to connect dots, that yes, drone, then this is unmanned, that is manned vehicle, and then if I can really load some kind of a mechanism which can spray the pesticide, then I can run the drone all over the land and pesticide can be sprayed sitting far away, remotely, controlling remotely. So, you thought, okay, there is a solution. This is kind of an eureka moment for you. So, you make hypothesis that drone based a device can be made using drone that can spray pesticides on land, and that can actually alleviate the disease or infection or whatever, means this poisoning of farmer who are spraying pesticides manually. So, that is your number one hypothesis, that farmers will, firstly you can do that effectively and farmers will be benefited, their pain will be alleviated and they will like to buy. Your second hypothesis is that okay, I will build it, but then will there be sufficient customer? So, you have a in both cases this is leap of faith, meaning that leap of faith is another core philosophy in lean startup. You must have leap of faith, meaning that you must make some hypothesis based on, not based on facts, but based on your gut feel and based on your experience, based on your discussion with some early people, etc. So, you try to imagine what all features you need in a drone based pesticide spraying. So, these are your hypotheses. First hypothesis is the value hypothesis, second is the growth hypothesis. So, you think that pesticide can be effectively and economically sprayed using drone based device, making it a better option compared to traditional method, and farmers will find it valuable, they will buy this paying money. Your second hypothesis is there will be demand for enough number of such devices to achieve growth and earn good profit moving forward. So, these are the features that you have jotted down, kind of almost like exhaustive, but then it may not be. I will not mention them one by one, time is of the essence. So, let us move forward. Now, you try to gather more information, you understand, you kind of dissect the product and then try to understand what are the use cases in this product. So, you find that quadcopter technology is one of the use cases, meaning that you need to develop technology for a quadcopter that will have sufficient that can carry sufficient payload, and then there should be an electronic controller in that. So, you need electronic engineer to develop this controller, and then you need a software expert for image processing, because wherever the crop is yellowish, meaning that there are deeper or accentuated attack of pest, you want to spray that the pesticide more on that. So, you need a person with a image processing background. You want to integrate this whole thing, particularly the controller and then the base station. So, you have so many use cases. So, you think that okay, so I need to hire so many people, because you are just an amateur in drone. You do not really understand the electronic part of it, the software part of it. So, you start planning as to how to execute this business model. First off, you need to hire so many people, you need office building, you need to register your company, you will also need to put in place the required infrastructure. So, you estimate what should be the rough investment requirement. So, you conservatively estimate is that for completely developing the first prototype, you need something like 2 crore rupees of investment, including some salary to the early employees, and then some infrastructure, some materials to be bought, some testing equipment, testing equipment is to be bought. So, there are so many other things necessary. So, you become really worried that God knows, after investment of 2 crore rupees, what will happen? Suppose farmers do not like it, suppose it is not effective or whatever. So, the cost, the uncertainties and the risk is kind of intimidating for you, and then you kind of become discouraged, and then your plan fall apart. So, your plan failed even before start of the business. Suppose by some fit of passion, you actually start, you invest 2 crore rupees by borrowing or by taking it from your dad or somebody, then you can imagine with all the risk, etc., chances of success is so less. So, it is so much of risk. So, nobody would like to, nobody should be doing that actually. How it should be done in that case, how people are doing. Actually, lean startup philosophy, if you look through the lens of lean startup, it will look very different. Let us see how it actually looks like. Your minimum viable prototype. So, first component of lean startup is the minimum viable prototype. So, what you do is you procure off the shelf quadcopter from a local shop, and then you procure other essential component, not many, but a gas cylinder, a small gas cylinder. You pack that with at high pressure, you pack that with pesticides, and you put some kind of a bulb on the cylinder, and when you start the quadcopter, just before that you open the valve, so that pesticide will just get spread. Now, from a controller, you take it to the farmer, bring some farmer, a bunch of farmer, maybe 100 of them, let them all see and create some kind of noise, and some collective opinion will emerge. So, bring some farmers and give a demo, and you show them that this actually works, and then you tell them that this is just an early prototype, this is not the real product, so that they do not get intimidated by some lack of performance or something. You want to make sure that they take it in a positive light. So, means that is what is actually the case. So, you try to educate the farmers about the pros and cons, the need for a bit of a technical knowledge, the operational this thing means ease of operation or the expertise. Then get their detailed feedback, what features they think was good or is good, what features they want to add, or whatever. I mean, you get a holistic perspective, and then jot down, and then that should be the data with which you should now do the learning, complete your learning process, and then redesign, means add or subtract or whatever. So, you have just built your minimum viable prototype. Now, this whole process of getting farmers on the field, demonstration, and then getting their feedback is nothing but build, measure, learn cycle. Let us move forward. So, though we have got it validated to some extent, but still it is too early to hire a lot of people and place all the infrastructure in place. We have many miles to go before we really start investing in a big way. but then it is time to form the founding team. Founding team should be formed early on, not really when you start the company, but before starting the company. If we can form team, we have already discussed what kind of people should be invited to be co-founder, not dwell on that today, but this is a time when other people also should be on board, and then they should also get the excitement, and they should be able to contribute, so that you have helping hands around, and then it should become a joint effort, so that everybody is committed to it, and they know what they get the excitement, they know the risk, they know the potential upside as well. So, this is the time to invite co-founders. Try connecting. Now, you still do not have money. So, you have to really think of developing something with minimum effort, minimum investment. So, one way of getting knowledge is to invite engineering students, particularly for this product. We are in drone still, we will be in drone for rest of the time, almost all the rest of the time of the session. So, you invite engineering college students, good students who are passionate about developing new technology, particularly in your field. So, they are people with open mind, they have empty canvas. You give them a problem, and they will all jump onto it, and they will forget about sleeping and eating, they will till they find a solution. They are passionate people. So, find out that kind of people, and then you make your product in module, like say separate module, so that you can assign one module to one team, so that gradually and independently they start building, and finally, once this is done, you can assemble them. But then when you invite students, there can be many models, like you can invite them for internship, or you can even go to the college and offer this as a project. Money, no money, that they may or may not bother, meaning you just fund the components, purchase of the components, they should be kind of okay, or you organize competition. There are many models that people are using, like hackathon, for example. So, you can also crowdsourcing, meaning you just take one problem, then shoot it to the public at large, then some people will come forward with a solution. You can pay or don't pay them, that is understanding between you and them. Keep a close watch and identify real talent, because everybody there will be some fence sitter who just want to enjoy the benefit of the development or innovation. There are others who are dedicated, who contribute the most. Identify them, they are the potential future employees. This is the time you need some more money. So, you try for incubation acceleration opportunity. We will discuss about incubation acceleration some other time, but for that, suffice it to say that these are organizations like IIT Kharagpur. They have an incubation cell where they offer you a small space, all other infrastructure like electricity, water, telephone, network, everything. They also give you a mentor and some early money. IIT Kharagpur gives 25 lakh rupees at the maximum. So, you have some capital, you have access to IIT Kharagpur laboratories, to students. Now, you have a whole community, whole ecosystem that can support you, that is called incubation cells. Acceleration is slightly different, where they give a small sum of money, but for a very short span of time they try to accelerate your growth process, and they give a small amount of money as well, hand holding, they connect with customer, they connect with investors. We will discuss about that moving forward. Continue to bootstrap as long as you do not get other sources, but do not try for investors money at this stage unless your product is kind of proven. Once the modules are ready, assemble, test, take it to the farmer's field, and then you become, once you feel that this is a complete successful final product, there is no final product. Product goes through development even when they are in the market, but when you are ready to go to market, almost like when you are ready with a prototype that you are ready to go to market with, this is the time you can approach to angel investors for funding. Venture capitalist will come much later. Angel investors has a small check size, meaning that they invest a small amount, maybe something like 1 crore to 10 crore or so, and they they are not risk averse as much as venture capitalists are. So, they can invest early, invest for development of early prototypes. So, they are okay with this. Means people say that they have higher risk appetite is a misnomer, but they are not as risk averse as others. And now is the time to fill the skill deficit or talent deficit. So, if you think that particular domain is not properly attended, we do not have expert, then this is the time to hire. Now, this is also time to build content. Content means information about the whole ecosystem or about the whole pain point. You tell the farmers that look, this is your pain. They may not be aware that they are dying because of spraying pesticide manually. So, tell them that this is the present state of affair, and tell them that this is a product that can alleviate or avert this risk that they are subjecting themselves through day in and day out. So, you make them aware about your product, aware about the pain that they suffer, aware that there is a solution to get rid of this. Try your best to have some leading media. This is a time when actually media, today's world media plays a huge role in attracting customer, in creating awareness about the product. Just publish an article in a media where what farmers actually read or view. So, the word of mouth will be spread. When somebody finds that, it will catch almost like it will spread like fire. So, this is the time when you are almost ready with the product and the market is aware about your product. So, go ahead and make this both ends meet. Validation process is never complete. As you keep on building the product and move forward, your process will always remain, means the validation process should always run, because you cannot remain complacent. In fact, majority of the startup die because once they go to market, they think that the war is won and our business is successful because customers are buying. They stop the process of this, understanding customers satisfaction level, and then coming up with new features, new design to better satisfy the customer. So, suddenly many of them realize that business is over. So, you have to continue to validate and come up with new design. Farmers, now suppose you have done everything and there are customers, farmers are buying, but then suddenly you realize that farmers are buying, but they are not using, and that is discouraging other farmers from buying it. Then you try to understand why is it happening like that. Farmers are not so educated, they are not comfortable operating a remote control drone. So, what to do? Many companies, actually when I was building this case, I searched the net and I found there is already a company in Hyderabad who are promoting this kind of a business. They are a startup and they are building drone based pesticide dispensation system, but I do not know how successful they are, but then it is going to hit a wall somewhere, because farmers are not so smart to use modern day gadgets. So, you may think of a kind of an entrepreneurial model, wherein you can invite some educated young people from villages, that why do not you buy this drone and use it as a timeshare machine, where you can farmers will pay you a small sum of money for spraying first pesticides for them. So, you make a schedule of spraying and then you earn a lot of money, and each farmer pays a small sum. So, that becomes kind of an aggregator model, and that may actually define success. Jappos is an example. Nick Swinmurth, we have already discussed this. So, let us move forward. Jappos has been discussed, so it is a repetition, but the message that comes out of it is the quickest and more economic way to get trustable real world feedback is to make a minimum viable product is the best. The minimum viable product should be simple, but good enough for customer to get sufficient experience. It should have the main functionality that you are trying to offer. So, or the job that you desire to perform. so that the feedback should be meaningful. So, get your hypothesis test. You have discussed this too much, so we will not go ahead. Dropbox, I just mentioned, here is the full story. So, Drew Houston, he pitched this idea before many people, before investor. They said hundreds of thousands of companies started to offer this file sharing business, file sharing in the cloud. None of them are successful. Many of them have been funded adequately, but none of them are successful. Nobody will like to again invest in your company for starting another file sharing business. But Drew was very confident, because he saw that all the services that are available on the companies who are offering the service, they have huge limitation. The files used to get corrupted, the security of data integrity was lost. Many a times people uploaded file, and when they downloaded, they found no data is there, etc., etc. So, he realized, and he came up with a solution where all these problems were eliminated. So, rather than listening to people, the naysayers, he made a video wherein he showed how trustable, how reliable his system is. And in the first day itself, when he uploaded this in YouTube, there were 75,000 waiting list of users who are waiting to register once the service is available. It is a huge success. Then Drew started the company. Eventually, it has become a $10 billion company. That is the power of minimum viable prototype. Is the YouTube video where he demonstrated the authenticity, the reliability, the integrity of the system that he is going to offer. Customer realized that this is far better compared to whatever is available. That is why 75,000 people registered. Earthback is another one. It is a social search kind of a company, means of a service, wherein they would be shooting some subjective question, for which there is no fixed solution. So, it will be spread through friends, etc., till a solution is available. They had the hypothesis, which was like this, that everybody is a huge knowledge reservoir, and they would like to share this knowledge with others, but they do not have a platform to do that. So, they offered this platform, that there is a question shot by somebody. If you know the answer, you give the answer, your name is means you can put your name, you may not put your name, but people will know that okay, so and so has given this solution. So, this whole system actually proved that their hypothesis, that yes, people are reservoir of knowledge, and they are interested to share this knowledge for the well-being of people, and then eventually it became a huge success. Google purchased this company for $50 million in means only in a span of few months of time. This company existed for few months of time, and it became $50 million because through minimum viable product, through validated learning process, they actually got their idea validated. They got huge registered users, and Google also realized that okay, this is a proven business model. So, if you are developing a software, this wireframe model can be your minimum viable product. Like DoorDash's company, they started with a website which was built for half an hour only. Only half an hour they built website, and the first call came for food delivery, and they thought yes, this is a business which is viable, because people this was their hypothesis, that people will order food online. Till then there was nobody offering this service, but then they were afraid. So, they spent only half an hour to build this website, and then it got validated by the first customer. So, gradually they built the company, eventually it became a huge company. DoorDash was valued at $1.4 billion. This is how Angry Bird was. It's not really a minimum viable prototype, but Angry Bird started like this, and eventually this became like that. So, that tells you the story how they move forward with validated learning, obviously. But then one size does not fit all, meaning that in the different business context, your minimum viable prototype will be very different. How to identify innovator kind of customer for validation. You read them. I don't want to increase the size of the video, so I will move forward. You should brainstorm, you should invite lot of people, similar kind of people in a room or in a marketplace or anywhere, and then pitch before them. If there is a crying solution, people will come forward, identify the most aggressive people who are interacting with you, asking question about the product. You know that they are interested. So, though they are your early adopters. This have already been done. A smoke test is something that you send mailer and then you give the website address. Some people will be visiting the website, and out of them some will actually register. So, that is the smoke test with a minimum viable website. You can get your idea validated. You see what percentage of people who are visiting the website are getting registered. So, that is you change the site, different site, like the A/B test. You have different websites, and then you get to know what percentage of people visiting the website are becoming are registering at least for the job. This is the Google landing page, and this is the Yahoo landing page, very different, and that tells the story about minimum viable. Even though Google is not really offering minimum viable prototype, but then it looks like a very simplistic one. Simplicity have so much of advantage. Then again you should pause and read, because I am running out of time. Now, this I find many of the students offer some education based content as their startup philosophy, startup product. So, here is an example how you can actually get your idea validated. I thought this will be very relevant for my audience. So, this is number 1 slide, this is number 2, just go through them and you will get to know. Some quotations, some very important references, and thank you.